A reading from the letter to the Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, he, for a little while, was made lower than the angels, that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. For it was fitting that he, for whom and through whom all things exist, in bringing many children to glory, should make the leader to their salvation perfect through suffering. He who consecrates and those who are being consecrated all have one origin. Therefore, he is not ashamed to call them brothers. The word of the Lord. I really love coffee. I'm not snobby about coffee, like I'll drink Folgers. I need coffee when I first wake up. I'm not particularly present at the beginning of the day. And I feel the same way about coffee that I do about hugs. I don't have to have one to get through my day, but if I don't, I'll probably be grumpy and have a headache around 2 p.m. and consider going back to bed. So, coffee is very important. And I'd like to tell you that I had this insight while drinking a cup of coffee, but that's not really when I do my good thinking. So, let's just pretend I was. I was drinking a cup of coffee the other morning, and I thought to myself, how useful this coffee cup is. But it's not useful because of its cupness. It's useful because of its emptiness. Now, this isn't my idea. Just like the writer to the letter to the Hebrews, I'm going to use a different text to maybe try to bring a little more life to this one. So he uses Psalm 8, but I have a degree in religious studies, so I'm going to use the Tao Te Ching. So, in the 11th chapter of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes, "Clay is shaped to make a cup," maybe a coffee cup. And what's useful is its emptiness. Carve fine doors and windows, but the room is useful in its emptiness. Now, I think the writer of this letter is pointing out that Christ's gift to us is in many ways his emptying himself out, his kenosis, which literally means emptying. And we are called to follow Christ in all things. And so I think it is right that we are called to empty ourselves. But that's not where we stop. Because if we empty ourselves, then we're less of ourselves. And Christ wants us to be most fully us. And so in the Gospel of Matthew, we're told about the unclean spirit that finds the empty house all in order. And he brings back 7 more unclean spirits with him. So we don't leave ourselves empty. Instead, we fill ourselves with Christ through contemplation so that we become more what we were actually called to be. But that filling doesn't always feel so comfortable. It doesn't always feel so good the deeper we go into contemplation. Just like that coffee cup, sometimes a brother might put it away without rinsing it. I know that's hard to believe, but occasionally that happens. And when that cool, clear, crisp water of Christ goes into that coffee cup, what rises to the top? But the yuck, the crud on the side of the cup, the few grounds that we thought maybe we'd purged in prayer, but they're still there. And so we face ourselves. We face our past, our darkness, our sin, our crud. And it can be at that point where contemplation doesn't seem that great, where that emptying and refilling doesn't seem like anything I want to get to the chapel 30 minutes earlier to do. But it's a great mercy and kindness of God to let us see that crud, because then we become aware that God gives us this great gift of mercy, this great gift of love, That emptying process that we're doing again and again and again, where we see ourselves more and more like God sees us, is a gift. Because then we know how ridiculous and how absurd God's love for us might actually be. Because He can love my coffee grounds and my crud and my dried half and half. And that's a suffering. It's a suffering to know how weak we are. It's a suffering to know how broken we are. We can feel like a cracked coffee cup. But if we think about it long enough, that's just another space for God to fill.